And in a press release from Detective Edgar Elizondo with the Baytown Police Department, on Thursday, March 5, 2015, at approximately 3:45 p.m., after a 2-day thorough and methodical search, Chambers County Sheriff's Office, along with the Texas Rangers and the Baytown Police Department, discovered the bodies of the two missing teenagers, 17-year-old Jarvis Lamont Morgan Jr. and 18-year-old Alejandro Castillo Chavez, in a body of water near Anahuac, Texas. During the investigation, detectives followed several leads, which led law enforcement to an area in Oak Island, which is near Anahuac, and discovered the two bodies. As a result of the investigation, detectives learned a second person of interest may have information which may help in the investigation. Detectives are asking for assistance from the public locating 17-year-old Jose Juan Chavez, known as Chop, as a person of interest in the investigation and disappearance of the two men. Anyone who may have information in this or any other crime is asked to call the Baytown Police Department at 281-422-8371. You can also contact Crime Stoppers at 281-427-TIPS. Submit anonymous tips online at the Baytown Police Department website, www.baytown.org. or text keyword Baytown plus your tip to 274637 crimes. Remember, Crime Stoppers pays cash and you will remain anonymous.
First, I would like to extend my sincere condolences to the family of the two young men. At approximately 3:45 yesterday afternoon, Chambers County Sheriff's deputies working alongside Baytown police detectives discovered two bodies of two young males meeting the physical description and clothing description of the two missing teenagers from Baytown. The deputies and detectives were searching the south area south of Anahuac in an area near Oak Island. They were searching that area based upon credible information that Baytown police detectives had obtained through their ongoing missing person investigation. The bodies were discovered in the West Fork of Double Bayou. It's going to be just south of Eagle Ferry Road. The bodies were intact considering the elements. Preliminary investigation showed that the bodies were moved from another rural and remote area of Chambers County to the location in which they were found. I would like to personally thank Chief Keith Doherty and the Baytown Police Department detectives for their vigilance and perseverance in this investigation. They have worked tirelessly, hundreds of hours of investigating these missing teenagers. I will now turn this over to Chief Doherty of the Baytown Police Department for his statement. Thank you.
Good morning. I'd just like to begin with letting you know that our thoughts, feelings, and prayers go out to the family and friends of these young men. I know words cannot comfort people when they have to go through a situation like this. We did work many long hours with the Sheriff's Department, and Texas Rangers, and I think it's through those efforts and the community support and tips that helped lead us to this point. I'd like to introduce Assistant Chief Clifford, who will try to fill in some of the pieces of the puzzle and answer any questions that you may have.
Good morning. My name is Roger Clifford. That's spelled R-O-G-E-R-C-L-I-F-F-O-R-D. I'm the Assistant Chief of Police in Baytown over criminal investigations. As has been said before, our hearts go out to the families. I think specifically as I think of Jarvis's mother, Sharon, and Alex's mother, Mariana. We had the unpleasant task of having to inform them that we believe we have found their sons who have been missing for over 2 weeks now. And the Baytown Police Department has thrown every possible resource, all of our personnel that we can, towards trying to find out during this missing persons investigation of what had happened. We were receiving leads and tips from so many different sources, most of which were simply rumors and things that people were passing on from other people. However, some of those tips were very credible. Tips coming in from Crime Stoppers were very helpful in pointing us in the direction where we ultimately ended up in Chambers County. When we entered into Chambers County, Sheriff Hawthorne and all of his crew out here did just a tremendous job of helping us and searching, looking several days in a row to find out exactly where these young men were, and unfortunately it ended up just yesterday over on Double Bile where the bodies were recovered. We'll probably take a few questions. I'm not going to take a lot, but I can promise you this. We're not going to be able to get into the details of this case. We can get some general questions, but anything that has the details, we'll probably not be able to go there. This is an ongoing investigation. There are several leads and several things that we need to do. I will tell you this before I get into that. You've seen the pictures. We sent all the pictures of those persons of interest. I'd like to give you an update on one of those. Brandon Flores, the first person of interest that we put out. About 2 o'clock this morning, Judge McDonald and Chambers County District Judge signed a warrant for capital murder, and we are looking for Brandon Flores for that charge of capital murder. So he has been charged. That was in the wee hours of the morning, just this morning. You'll have that picture already in some of the handouts. We still are looking for a person of interest, Jose Juan Chavez. We've had that picture's also been put to. We believe that he is also one of the last persons to see these young men before they disappeared, and any information that anyone would have of his whereabouts would be greatly appreciated. With that information, I'll take a few questions, but we're not going to get into any of the details of this case. So, I believe you were first. Go ahead.
With all due respect to not getting into the meat of the details, but is there any broad scenario that you formulated at this point to kind of help connect some of these dots, how these boys would wind up here in Anaheim?
We have been receiving numerous tips, and some of those tips came in through Crime Stoppers, which gave us general information that we might be able to discover the whereabouts of these two young men in Chambers County. Through those tips that led us over here, we began a joint operation with Chambers County. DPS was also involved. The Texas Rangers were also involved. There were a lot of assets thrown out in this area, and it was a 4, 5, 6 day search, because there's certainly lots of places people could end up. And fortunately, yesterday, some of the search teams were able to discover their bodies, so we can help the family begin to start a closure on this thing. That's about as far as I can go with that.
Do you have any idea where these two persons of interest might be, or are you guys focusing or search anywhere? Do you think, perhaps they've gone out of state or not gone?
I wish I could give you a really good answer to that. Fact is, and I'm speaking quite frankly here, we don't know exactly where they're at. There's lots of rumors. There's lots of tips coming in that they might have fled to this place or that. None of those things are credible enough for us to be able to give you a definitive answer on that, so we don't know where they're at.
Can you tell me about the cause of death and more about how the body...
As far as moving them, that is part of the investigation. We're trying to determine that. Obviously, it would have taken some type of vehicle. That'll have to be looked at in detail. As far as the cause of death, first of all, I think it's probably pretty evident that these two young men, since the time they were missing, were probably in the water. And because of that, we don't have a clue as far as what the cause of death is until the medical examiner tells us what that is. And that's to be determined by Jefferson County.
One follow-up, sir. Is there any